Welcome to the daily study of the Way of Mastery. And today we continue with lesson 1, the way that calls you home. And we're going to look at the last paragraph in the first section and the first paragraph in the second section. So Jeshua says, I speak from experience that separation is an illusion. When death occurs in your plane, in that very moment, you still have the power to choose to recognize that something has changed and to shift your attention to a different faculty that the body could never possibly contain, one in which you perceive and hear and communicate with that spark of divine light, the soul, that seems to have given up the idea of trying to keep a physical form animated. This is imperative. In fact, it is the very first step of the way of the heart. So let's look at this. Jeshua says, I speak from experience that separation is an illusion, and the word is in italics, so it's emphasized. Separation is an illusion. It seems so real, but it has no grounding in reality. It has no substance. When we look closer, it's just an illusion, this idea that we're separate from source, from life, from love. He says, when death occurs in your plane, in that very moment, you still have the power to choose to recognize that something has changed. This theme over and over and over again, the power to choose. No one and nothing can take that away from us. That is a God-given power to choose where to place your attention. And as we've said in earlier, the podcast, where you place your attention creates your experience. So he says, no matter what's happening, even in the moment where you seem to be dying in this physical world, you still have the power to choose where to shift your attention. And he says to shift it to a different faculty that the body could never possibly contain, which is the consciousness, which is the soul. So when we seem to be dying from the body, we can still choose to shift our attention to consciousness, to identify with something the body cannot contain, one in which you perceive and hear and communicate with that spark of the divine light, the soul. How beautiful is that? And we can always do that. So the more we can practice in meditation, in breath work, in other practices that help us get out of our mind and our ego identification and our body identification, and we can access something beyond the body-mind, the more we reside in those places, the more we realize that's where our reality lies. So we're not as afraid to leave the body because we're practiced in entering a different level of consciousness that resides beyond the body. So he says the soul, one in which you perceive and hear and communicate with that spark of divine light that seems to have given up the idea of trying to keep a physical form animated. So he's saying our physical bodies are just an idea. It's an energy. It's a manifestation of an idea of separation. And when we give up this idea, we have the experience of not being in a physical form anymore, not being feeling separate. And he says this is imperative. It's the very first step of the way of the heart, which leads us to the beginning of section 2, titled The First Step in Awakening. And Jeshua says the first step in awakening is to allow into the mind this axiom of truth, not force it in, just to allow it, like the tiny mustard seed to find its way in and to sink in so that it can grow, to allow into the mind this axiom of truth. He says nothing that you experience is caused by anything outside of you. You experience only the effects of your own choice. Now, again, he's kind of stating it very directly right now, but these are things we've already kind of talked about in the first couple of episodes of the podcast. They're mentioned, but here we're just going straight to it. And let's acknowledge that this concept, again, is radical. It's almost impossible to conceive for the ego, the sense of separation, or if we really identify with being a body, that the things that we've experienced are our choice. This can trigger so much againstness, so much anger, so much argument. It can feel like it invalidates our experience of being alive. But let's look at it again. Nothing, not a thing that you experience. This is radical, but it's also empowering because he says it's your choice. Nothing that you experience is caused by anything outside of you. So if we want a different experience, we just have to look inside. It's all within us. And it's all within a level of consciousness. We have to stop identifying with the world of separation, with the world of these things that are outside of us, other people, other circumstances. Those things are all manifestations or projections of consciousness. The physical world is a projection of consciousness. He says you experience only, there's that word again, only. You experience only the effects of your own choice. So let's go to the level of cause instead of always trying to manage effects. It's like instead of trying to manage symptoms of an illness, go to the cause of the illness. So you experience only the effects of your own choice. So let's go back to choice. So many of us are choosing, without even realizing it, choosing separation. Choosing to take seriously the tiny mad idea that somehow we're separate from source, that somehow we're outside of love. And everything stems from that one choice. All the feelings of unworthiness, all the belief in lack, of not enoughness, all the things that then manifest as experiences of betrayal or rejection or whatever it is. Those all stem from the one root of believing, taking seriously the tiny mad idea that somehow we did the impossible, which was separate from our source and love. And he's constantly inviting us to choose again, to choose to perceive again. Make a different choice, to choose love, to choose union with the divine, to choose to realize and actualize your divine Christed nature, and then your experience chooses, then your external world chooses. So a radical, a challenging, and an empowering part of this first lesson. And so, again, look at what you're experiencing in your own life. Let's make this practical. Look at what you're experiencing in your own life. And it's not just if you're not enjoying it, but if it's really challenging for you, just consider the possibility that somewhere you're choosing separation, somewhere you're choosing lack, somewhere you're choosing to buy into this idea that life is not supporting you, that life doesn't love you, that you're unworthy of support or love or being happy. And that choice is creating your experience. And then again, start to play with this idea of choosing love, of choosing to love yourself, of choosing to see yourself as God sees you, as the divine sees you, as perfect, as whole, as abundant, as infinite, as a powerful creator. Like play with that idea and see how it feels. Thanks for listening. We're going to dive in back tomorrow. Love you. Have a great day.